Alright everybody, this is a video about installing a sunroof, electric sliding sunroof in your 1970 through 81 F body, which would be Camaro or Firebird. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to source your sunroof. There's some people that are using Pontiac G6 sunroofs, which are the panoramic ones that have 4 separate glass pieces. They slide back and kind of fold up on themselves. They're cool looking. I don't know if they would fit in an F-body roof, because F-body roof is not very big. This sunroof measures 33 inches wide by 21 inches long, or this way. So it's a pretty large sunroof, and it actually takes up, when you put these sunroofs in, there's actually structure underneath this thing. So the motor of this thing actually comes up to here, and then there is there's a shade underneath here that has a mechanism, so that goes almost all the way back to here. So you got to make sure that you have enough room on your roof to mount this thing. So the other thing is availability. This sunroof was built in GM cars from 2007 to 2013. This one happens to be off an Impala. They were the same for Impalas, Pontiac Bonnevilles, and Buicks, I believe. So this is a very common sunroof, very easy to find parts for. If anything ever happens to this, if say it got broken, it'd be very easy to source the glass, or if the motor went bad, it'd be very easy to source a new motor for it. So you want something that, you can get parts for in the future, because this thing's going to be a permanent part of your car. And if you go with an aftermarket sunroof, that's great, but you better hope that they don't ever go out of business, because you won't be able to get parts for your sunroof anymore. So the way these things are made is there's actually, the roof skin has a structure built into the bottom of it, and this sunroof bolts to it from the bottom with 4 bolts. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and it bolts in from the bottom, and it actually has like a plastic tray all the way around it, so that any water that does get past this seal collects in that tray, and then it goes out 4 separate drain tubes. And we'll get to that once I start to dissect this roof. I'll show this to you. Those tubes run right down the A-pillars and right out the bottom of the car. The rear ones go right out those pillars and out the bottom of the car. So that's how your sunroof drains, so you don't have to worry about it leaking into the car. To me, this is a better alternative than T-tops, at least on the car that I'm building. This is I'm more worried about the handling of the car and the strength of the body than I am about T-tops. But you still want to have that open air experience. And this is something I've never seen done before on one of these cars, so I want to do it. The other thing that's nice about these sunroofs, is they do not slide back into the roof, so they don't take away any of your headroom. They actually come up and go back over the roof. So the first thing you want to do, find your car, go to your local junkyard, find the car that has a nice, decent looking, headliner and sunroof and roof. Make sure it's something that looks like it's been taken care of halfway. It doesn't matter what the rest of the car looks like. It could be completely crashed, as long as this is good. What I had them do, instead of you're going to have to cut your roof skin around here, and you do not want to cut into the structure that holds the sunroof up. So I did not trust the junkyard to do that for me, to screw that up. So what I told them to do is just chop it right off at the pillars, and that I'd come pick it up so I can do the dissection of the roof myself. A roof like this cost me $250 for the whole entire setup. So it's not very expensive. This right here is one of your drain tubes that runs out the bottom of the car that lets the water out. I will be replacing these with a clear tubing, but we'll show you that as we get into that process. When you get this roof, you want to make sure that they give you the headliner with it, with the switches and all the wiring. It doesn't matter if they cut the wiring. When they cut the wiring actually runs down the passenger side rear C pillar. They can cut right through it. It doesn't matter, because you're going to be using your own wiring anyways. But you want to have the wiring intact to the switch and to the sunroof. The sunroof just has one big plug-in that goes to it. So you have all this, all these plug-ins for the rear view mirror and for OnStar, your XM radio antenna. I mean, if you plan on using all that stuff for your car, that's great, but I don't plan on using any of that. So your main wiring harness comes out the back. This runs on your C-pillar. There's only 3 wires in here that you are concerned with to run your sunroof. There's a thick black wire, which is your ground wire. There's a thick red wire with a white stripe. That's your main power. And then your yellow wire is for accessory. That way your sunroof isn't opening and closing without the key being on. So if you want to test this, this is your switch right here. See, I just have it unplugged. I mean, I have it plugged in, but I have it off of the holder. So we're gonna go ahead and turn on my battery charger here. So here's your sunroof. There's your vent. You hit your button once for a vent. You hit it twice, it goes all the way back. You hit the other button to close it. So we know that works good. So we're all set there. As long as you know the thing works, then you can go on to the next part of the project. The next part of your project is going to be to get this sunroof unbolted and out of here. And then we'll start making our cuts to get this this area out of here. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so here is the bottom of the roof. You can see these are your drain tubes. Like I said, these go right out down the bottom, down the pillars to the bottom of the car. So any water that gets inside there drains out the bottom of the car. So you got 4 of those, one on each corner. This is your shade mechanism. Goes up and down. This is your main plug-in for everything, right there. There's 4 bolts that attach this thing to the roof. 1, 2, 3. There's your 4th one. You can see this structure that is welded to the bottom of the roof skin. What we want to do is we want to cut out past that. I'd say about 2.5 inches all the way around. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut a hole in the roof of our car and drop this in and weld this structure into the roof of our car. And then we're going to have an electric sunroof. Stay tuned. Okay, so the sunroof is removed. I'll give you a little tip here. Right there's your 4 bolt holes. Right there, right there. There is a push fastener, sorry, that goes right there that you really have a hard time seeing. It's right in this little hole right here. It goes up into this. You'll want to make sure you get that out first because you do not want to break this thing. This is your tray that collects your water. So you want that thing to be healthy and unbroken. If it's broken, if you crack it, you're going to have to get a new one because otherwise it's going to leak in your car. Just a little thing that I found that you might not notice if you don't know about this. So what you want to do now is we're going to go around this thing. We're going to take a punch, sharp punch, and we're going to make little dimples up through so that when we flop this roof back over again, we're going to see exactly where we need to cut. Again, you want to stay out about 2.5 inches, you know, as far as at least like to here on that thing, so that when we drop this into the new roof, we keep all of this structure. We want to keep all that structure. Okay, we got our roof back down. Remember the holes I said are the dimples to make? What you're going to do is connect all these little dots, all these little dimples. And that way you know exactly where to cut. It's going to make your life much easier when you go to remove that roof. If you know exactly where to cut and you're not guessing. So. Next step is surgery. Okay, just a little tip here. I'm using a air-powered cutoff wheel. You can see I marked my cut line with masking tape just to make it a little bit easier to keep an eye on things. Because there is the B-pillar right here on a 4-door. There's some large brackets down below here that actually are, now this is all a single layer of sheet metal all the way around here. But right in this area, there's a couple brackets on both sides. So once you get to this area, you're going to want to stick a Sawzall blade down through there, straight down, and cut right through there on both sides. Just a little tip. Unless you have a cutoff wheel that's really big, a good 5 or 6 inch one that'll reach all the way down through. And I'll show you those areas once we get it off and flipped over. All right, so I'm going to end up calling this the plug. This is the welding area that we're going to be welding into the new car. That's removed from the donor roof. See right down in there where those brackets were that I was telling you about, right in here, this area. They are still attached here. See how we got this nice sheet metal edge all the way around us to be able to weld in. These things here go out to here, so we're going to want to get rid of these. There's 3 spot welds on these. 1, 2, 3. And what you're going to want to do is take your cutoff wheel or a grinder or whatever, and you're going to grind these spot welds down till they're paper thin. And then this should pull right up off of there. Then this area will all be prepared, ready to start welding in. So after you grind those 3 spot welds paper thin, just use a flat screwdriver, pry up on them, and they're going to pop right off. You're going to be worried that you're going to hurt the underlying metal. You're not going to hurt it, trust me. You would have to grind through 2 layers of thick metal to be able to do that. Got that one done. This one I already did. So that's going to be your piece that's going to get welded into your new roof, into your F-body. So what you want to do is go around this edge, clean this edge up nice and smooth, get rid of there's going to be some burrs on there from cutting. So you want to take your grinder and grind around that edge, get it nice and smooth, get it prepped. You want to grind your paint back at least a 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 an inch to prepare that nice clean edge for welding. Okay, so this is what you're going to end up with. I just went around the edges, got them down to bare metal. That's really all the farther that you have to go with the bare metal on the edges, because you're going to be MIG welding this into the roof of your car. Same thing on the bottom. I left as much of this factory E-coat inside there as I could. The way that I'm going to do mine, this is where the controversy is going to come in with certain people. Some people are going to say they want an exact hole as what this is, and then butt weld this roof skin into their roof skin. If you're that good, if you're or else lay it down on there and then cut them both at the same time so you have an exact replica of the hole. If you're that good of a fabricator or that good of a welder to be able to weld a 4 foot by 3 foot piece of sheet metal of a roof skin and not have it warp to like crazy and be, go crazy, then you're a better welder than I am, and I applaud you. What I'm going to be doing is cutting a hole that's about 1/2 inch smaller all the way around as this one is. We're going to drop this thing into the roof and then MIG weld around the edges. And when you're done, if you do a good enough job, there should be a small amount of filler. That's a very, very thin piece of steel there to have to fill over. So literally less than a 1/16 of an inch. What that does is that adds extra strength to the roof when you cut that hole out. It makes it so this can never, if the car's ever in a rollover or something, this can never come through the roof. And the other thing that it does is it gives you just a little bit extra room. It's going to bring this sunroof up in the car, your headroom. Even if it's only a 1/16 of an inch, it's probably going to make a difference when it comes to the headliner. We want the headliner, the factory headliner, to go into this thing, if possible. We're going to cross that road when we come to it. But from what I can see, from what measurements I can do, it looks like it may be okay to use with the factory headliner. If not, like I said, we've held on to the original, the headliner that came out of the Impala. We may have to do some kind of a fabrication to get everything to do what we want it to do, but we'll figure that out. So next step is going to be getting this traced. You're going to want to lay a piece of poster board or cardboard or whatever you want on the top side of this thing, and you're going to trace this hole all around, and it has to be exact, because you do not want to cut your hole in your roof too large. If anything, you want it to be too small. So you can always take away metal, but you can't. You don't want to add it back. So you want to make a hole just like this hole is, but just a 1/2 inch smaller all the way around, just to give you a nice lip to be able to weld to. And once you start doing that, you have to worry about it being centered. It has to be centered in the roof. You have to do a lot of measuring. You have to make sure you leave enough room for the sunroof motor in the front, and also the shade mechanism, in the back. So we'll figure that all out once we start getting into that part of the equation. So stay tuned. So I think one of the things that people have to remember when they do this is that there is structure and motors and stuff like this that goes on the bottom of the sunroof that actually protrude past where the actual sunroof hole is. This is the actual sunroof hole. So from here forward, you've got about 6 inches from the actual hole of the sunroof, which is here, to this area. So you have to make sure you have room underneath your roof to be able to have all this stuff fit in. Back here, you've got a good 14 inches from the actual sunroof hole to the back of this, which is over 1 foot. So you got to keep that in mind when you're putting this in. So once you this is going to be our donor car that we're going to put the sunroof in. One thing you have to realize, these the roofs on these cars are basically the same exact type of contour as what's on that sunroof from the Impala, so that's no problem. The only thing is these roofs, there's the outer skin, which is this, then there is an inner skin, which is this metal right here. So there's 2 layers here. So the problem when they do T-tops, especially the Hearst T-tops, they just chopped it. They chopped it right here and here and chopped out everything, and they would lose all this structural rigidity of the car right here. We want to keep that in this one, but we also got to be able to put the sunroof in. So we're going to keep the majority of this inner structure. We're only going to cut out the actual parts that we need to make room for the sunroof to fit in here. And you also have to make sure you keep stuff like this. This is where your sun visors hook on and everything, and this is like where your inner trim screws up to the top of the roof. So you want to try to keep as much of this as you possibly can. I have to do some measuring to make sure that I can keep as much of that as I can. The good thing is we're not going to be touching anything over here on the other sides, so it's going to keep all that structure in there, all that rigidity of the body. So as I get moving along here, I'll take measurements of that and share that with you guys. Of course, every car might be slightly different. At least I can give you a good idea of where I'm going to be at. Now there's a couple ways that you can measure your roof to do your hole. Some people like to get paper, a big sheet of paper and trace it out. I'm not a big fan of that because paper can be a little bit forgiving and can make your measurements off by, an 1/8 of an inch, which this doesn't have to be absolutely totally perfect, down to the millimeter, but you want to get it as close as you possibly can to being perfectly centered. So the way I do it, when you look up underneath your roof here, you can see 2 ribs. That's going to be your center line of your roof in between those 2 ribs. You come up here, there's a little bump right here that shows your center line. You can mark your center line right there. I came around the front, marked my center line of the roof, measured out the center line of the sunroof, which is about 33 1/8 inches wide. So you're going to go a little bit over 16 1/2 inches. And this is just to get you started. So right there's my center line of that. Set it on there, got it pretty close to center. And then what I did is I started marking where these things come down to touch the roof. So right here, where this mark is, you can see right there where that mark is. And there's a couple over there. Once you get the front of this thing square to the windshield opening and square to the sides of the roof, then you don't even have to worry about the rest of this. All you're worried about is getting this square up here. The rest of it will follow. So my measurements that I have from this mark to up here to the very front is 8 inches and 1/8, 8 1/8 inches. It doesn't have to be that to yours. You can move it. There's going to be a little bit of room. You have to remember, you have to leave enough room here to be able to let your motor of your sunroof and the chacks and stuff, they stick out about another inch past this line that I cut. So I know I'm going to have plenty of room there. If you want to do yours this way, you can. If you want to move it back or maybe a little bit forward, try to get it closer to the forward, you can. But I think right where I'm at's just about right for me. On the side, both of these measurements from this mark right down to the edge of the roof is 8 3/8 of an inch on both sides. So right now I know I have this sunroof centered on the roof right to left, and I know I have it squared front to back on both sides. It's square, perfectly parallel with the windshield opening, and it's perfectly in the center of the roof. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the edge of this, trace this line all the way around on the actual roof, and then I will know that when I go to cut my roof out, I want to stay inside that line about 1/2 an inch. I want about 1/2 an inch of overlap. So we'll pick up there once we get to that point. Okay, so I went around, traced my outline of my donor roof there, where I cut that one off, and I went around that line on the inside of the line with 3/4 inch tape. That's going to give me a 3/4 inch lip all the way around. And what I want to do is when I cut this, I'm going to be cutting on the inside of this tape. One thing I just want to stress, really stress, is that when in doubt, cut the hole smaller than what you think. The reason being is because you do not want to cut the hole too big and have the donor plug fall through the hole. It's easier, much easier. Say you have a little bit too much metal here, you can always take a grinder and grind the edge off, make the hole bigger. It's always easier to make this hole bigger than it is to weld in new metal and try to make it smaller. So just a little warning there. If for some reason you do cut the hole too big somewhere, it's not the end of the world, but just save yourself some work. So the upper skin is ready to start cutting on. I'm going to cut that off first, and then that way once I have this cut out, I can kind of measure where I need to cut out my lower skin. It'll be a little bit easier to see what I got to do. So this is the part where there's no turning back. Once you cut the roof off, there's no turning back. A little bit nerve-wracking. Wish me luck. Okay, and at this point we are at the point of no return, so you're fully committed now. Your piece that you chop out, and like I tell you guys, if in doubt, make the hole smaller than what you need to. You don't want to make it bigger. You do not want to get into your tape, because you can always grind that hole back farther if you need to. It's a lot easier. That roof piece is going to be glued to this, so you're going to have to, you know, try to peel it up. You can go down through here and start to pop it up from underneath. At this point, what I'm worried about is getting this hole the exact size to fit that roof plug in right there. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this support out, the inner structure out right even. You can actually see where I went down through it when I was cutting the first time. I'm going to get this cut out just to make sure that this the new plug fits this hole perfectly. I'm using the 4-inch angle grinder with a cutoff wheel to do the big long areas. It's hard to make a nice round cut with that thing, so I'm using a smaller air cutoff wheel for those. Biggest thing to remember is if your car has glass in it, you've got to make sure to protect that glass, because the sparks will etch right in the glass very easily. So if you do happen to have glass in your car, you get it covered up as best as you can. And also, you know, I shouldn't have to say it, but you get one set of eyes in your life, wear eye protection. You do not want to get sparks and metal and stuff in your eyes, because that really hurts. Ask me how I know. But we'll get to cutting out this piece, and then we'll start fitting our plug in there. Okay, we've got our second layer cut out. Now you've got a gigantic hole in your roof. A little scary. There's our old piece. Our second underneath piece. Now what you're going to do is you're going to switch over to a grinder, a regular grinder, and you're going to start to fit this piece down into the hole. Again, there is structure that's underneath this thing. All this built-in structure. You want this thing to sit down in there so that it's nice and flat right against the top of the roof skin. You want a nice flat surface for this to sit on. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of grinding to get it perfectly. You know, you don't want this sitting, you know, on your roof skin. You want this skin touching your roof skin. So you're gonna do just a little bit of adjustments here and there to get everything to fit. That's the whole point of this exercise. So I'll come back to you when I get those things fitting down in there and sitting in there. Well, that was easy. I got lucky and mine dropped right in on the very first try, which was very unexpected. I thought for sure I was going to have to do a little bit of trimming, but just a lot of measuring really helps. As you can see, this thing sits right down on there, really nice. Boy, it's like it's made for the car. It's really nice fit. I have to do a little bit of trimming. I think I have to do a little bit of trimming right here maybe, but still. The fit on this is really nice. Very happy with it so far. This thing's gonna weld in really good. You can see I still have my green tape there. That's right where I had it, you know, marked around the edges. Now what you're gonna wanna do now is mark out around this thing. You're gonna wanna grind your paint back all the way up to that edge, get the paint off, and get this thing, you know, it's got a little bit of room to move. Get it exactly where you want it, you know, exactly, and weld her down. Okay, we've got the roof all prepped. This roof was already stripped to bare metal before I even started this project, and epoxy primered. Then I gone over with filler primer, because when I first started doing this project, I didn't even plan on doing this roof. But you know, once we started getting into it, I thought I wanted to do something different. So we've already prepped our edge of the plug, as we talked about before. That's already done to bare metal. This is bare metal. Now what a lot of people are going to say is, why can't you panel bond this? You very easily could. This thing fits so perfectly on the roof that you could, you know, grind both sides on the bare metal and put your panel bond on there. You'd have to have a lot of clamps to go around this. You'd probably need about 30 clamps. But the reason why I don't, and this is the reason why I don't, panel bond is great. Panel bond, for those that don't know, is basically like metal glue. And you know, factories use it nowadays. NASCAR used it back in the day. They were the first ones that started using it to you know, bond hood skins on and door skins, and you know, that's what a lot of factories use nowadays. It's a lot less invasive. It actually helps with corrosion resistance, all that kind of stuff, which is great. It does great for that kind of thing. I have over the years seen a couple of vehicles come in here where people have like put on a quarter panel skin, and instead of actually welding it, they've used panel bond. So say you've got a skin that's on here that comes down through here. And one of them I remember was a Dodge Charger, 69 Dodge Charger years ago. Came in, and the guy had 2 quarter panels put on, and it was, you know, glued on right down through here. Over the years, that panel bond, every time that panel bond gets warm or cold, it's always going to fluctuate just a little bit, that glue that's in between those 2 pieces. As it gets warmer, it expands. As it gets colder, it contracts. And which is fine if it's inside here or underneath a piece of rubber where you can't see it. You know, if those 2 pieces contract and expand, it's no problem. But if it contracts and expands right here in the middle of your body work, you're going to see exactly where the line is that you have. So if I put panel bond on this and panel bonded it down, I'd get all done, do my body work, skim coat this, get it all perfectly smooth, and within a year, the first time this thing got hot or cold out in the sun, because it gets very hot out in the sun, especially on a black car, you're going to see a ghost line all the way around this thing underneath the bodywork. So that's why I prefer not to do that on this car. The other thing, when you're welding, especially on something like this, I'm basically, for right now, I'm just going to get this thing spot welded in, just because I have it exactly measured out to exactly where it's got to be. You're going to want to just do a little bit at a time all the way around. Just zap here, zap here, zap here, and do that all the way around the thing. You cannot just start in the middle of an area and just start welding down through, because this will warp like crazy. All that heat from the welding is going to warp, especially a big, large piece of metal skin like this. So you want to definitely take your time, just zap a little inch at a time here and there, let it cool, go to another spot until you get the whole thing. Very time consuming process, but it's a lot less time consuming than trying to get gigantic warps out of your rough skin. So there's going to be a lot of welding to do on this thing for the next few hours. We'll pick this thing up after we get the welding done, probably after we get it all ground down and ready for body work. All right, so we've got this thing zapped in. Basically just went around every 6 inches and spot welded it. As you can see, there's going to be some little bit of dimpling, where you weld. That's why we're going to have to do body work on this when we're done. So now that it's measured exactly to where it's got to be. So like on both sides, from here to here, that says 8 inches and 1/8. 8 1/8 inches from here to here on both sides. On this side, from here down to here, it's 8 1/4 inch on both sides. So that tells me that this thing is exactly square, and this roof exactly square to where it's got to be. Try to give you a good idea of what it looks like. Nice big sunroof. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to test fit this thing. You want to bolt it up in here, and we're going to see, because I know that motor, that sunroof motor, is going to take up some of this area, and the same thing with the little tracks and stuff that stick out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to cut probably most of this metal right up to this line, which is okay. This metal doesn't do anything. All we're worried about is keeping this area. This is the strength area. So we can cut out some of this. In the back, I'm not sure. I think that the tracks might go right over this. I'll have to check that out and see. It'd be great if it did, because if I don't have to cut out any of this, it'd be really, really nice. But we'll see. Our biggest thing right now is we want to test fit the sunroof and see where we have to do extra trimming. Let's see how that goes. All right, so here we are 3 hours later. We have a functioning flush mount glass electric sunroof in this 77 Trans Am. I cannot stress to you how nice this thing fits in this car. It's like it was made for the car. Underneath, the only trimming of metal that you have to do underneath here is right up in here. You have to make enough room for the motor to fit up inside there. There's a line that goes all the way across the roof here. I just went up to that. So I actually have more room than what I need there. Try not to mind the fingerprints on the glass. That's me trying to put that thing up in there by myself. So the heavy little sunroof. And the shade functions like it's supposed to. I'll probably end up reupholstering that with the same material I do the headliner with. The headliner is going to go over right normally. We have to cut the hole out, and it will actually fit up underneath this rubber. I'm pretty sure the headliner is going to fit fine up inside this thing. I don't think we're going to have any problems. We'll see once we start to do it. If I have to do some modifications to that. I'm going to turn on my battery charger here. That's just a regular vent function for hit the button once, hit it twice. Now, of course, from the factory, this thing has this little wind buffer that pops up, and the Impalas. I'm deleting that. I actually just cut it out. It's just made out of material, but I'll actually be going over it, and once I take the sunroof back out, I'll totally delete it, get the screws out of here and get rid of it. There you see where it sits. Can't wait to get all the spoilers and everything back on this car so we can see what it's going to look like. Get the bodywork. We'll finish welding this, getting it all smoothed out. Well, actually, I just wanted to make sure everything was going to fit the way it's supposed to. I'll be taking this, it's literally 4 bolts, hold this up in against the roof. We'll take it back down out. We'll finish our body work here, smooth this up, finish welding, finish doing the body work. Now on these sunroofs, like I told you before, there's the four little drain tubes right there. You're going to want to run one drain tube right down through the quarter panel over here. Find a hole to go through and down through the quarter panel, and empty right into the quarter panel. That's the way the factory ran water down through. And the same way up here, we're going to run a hose from this up through here, down through the A pillar, and down into the cowl panel here. That's where the factory drains water out. So as long as you have those hoses coming down, and emptying out into places where the factory emptied the water, you're good. You never have to worry about any leaks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this video up just so people have an idea of how to do this. And once I get finished doing this car, restoring it, like I said, I still have to finish welding this and getting the bodywork done. This car's going to be all black. Excuse me. It's basically going to be like a 77, 78 style Bandit car. You know, of course, it's going to be a little modified. We've got 17-inch snowflakes on it, and you know, it's going to be lowered down, and it's going to be a pretty nice little car when it's done. But I'll link you guys to that video once this thing's all finished, so you can see the finished product. You'll see this all smooth and see the headliner all done in it. And I'll update you then. But it's good to finish this project up. You know, like I said, this is the first one I've ever done. It took me 3 hours from the first cut to getting the thing installed in the car here. So, of course, there's going to be more time and work into getting everything smooth, but pretty easy. This thing's made to fit the car. And the nice thing, like I said, about this is if there's any problems with it, if you ever break the glass, if you ever break the motor, whatever, there's literally 10 million of them laying around in junkyards. Very easy to get parts for, very easy to service. So that's the important thing. Once again, thanks for watching. If you are interested in this channel, some of the things I do, you can hit the subscribe button if you want to. It's free. You can hit the like button if you'd like, if you like this content. And I'm always doing something different on the channel. Always building different cars, doing different projects. And if it's something you're interested in, you can hit the subscribe button and you get to see my videos that I put up, my future videos. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.